this is Lincoln within the band. In this video, we're going to be covering the topic of song structure and learning how to create a song with multiple sections in BandLab. This video is part of a series about the basic tools of music theory and how to use these tools in composition or songwriting. If you haven't watched our other videos in this series yet, we recommend watching all of those before watching this one. Basically what we're talking about here is how to take a short piece of music, whether that's a 4-bar loop, a verse, or whatever else, and turn it into a whole song. While there are many different ways to structure a song, there are a few elements of song structure that are important to know and understand. The most important of these are verse and chorus. Most songs have multiple verses and multiple choruses. Generally speaking, the biggest difference between verses and choruses is that verses tend to repeat the same music with different lyrics each time, while choruses usually repeat the same music and lyrics each time. The chorus can be thought of as the centerpiece or the main part of a song. The title of a song, or at least its central theme, often comes up in its chorus. Verses are a little more open-ended, though they often have lyrics that provide support or context to the chorus lyrics. Musically, choruses tend to be bigger, louder, and often simpler than verses. Also, in song structure, the verse usually comes before the chorus. But remember, these are all just general guidelines, not absolute rules. In some songs, verse and chorus are the only two parts. The structure of a song like that might go verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus. Now, while there's nothing wrong with that, a lot of songwriters want more variation than that in their songs, so they might add another part. A common part to add is a bridge, which usually comes after a couple of repetitions of the verse-chorus back and forth to break up that repetition. A bridge can be pretty much anything as long as it's at least a little bit different from the verse and the chorus. Some other common parts to add are a pre-chorus, used to transition from the verse to the chorus, a post-chorus, used to transition from a chorus to a verse or to a new part, an intro, a unique part at the beginning, and an outro, a unique part at the end. There are other kinds of parts as well, but we'll stop there for now. You can use some, all, or none of these in your song. Again, they're just general guidelines to help you organize your song. Let's say you have a 4-bar loop with melody, chords, bass, and drums, and you want to turn it into a whole song. For the sake of this lesson, let's say we want to use this part as our verse, and we want to add a chorus. For our verse, we're going to use the same 4-bar loop we made in our last video. But as you can probably hear, that sounds pretty short to be a whole verse. So before we move on, let's just loop each of these tracks so our verse lasts for 8 bars instead of 4. Because we already covered how to build a section of music with rhythm, chords, a melody, and a bass line in our last video, we're not going to go into detail about it again here. But basically what I'm doing to create this new section, the chorus, is using the MIDI editor tool in the BandLab browser app to add new sections to each track, which are similar to, but not exactly the same as the parts we used in the verse. We're staying in C major, and I'm going to use the same kick and snare pattern I had in the first part. Here's what I came up with. Now again here, at 4 bars, this part is pretty short. So let's do the same thing we did with the verse and just loop each track so it lasts for 8 bars. And then just to make sure that our parts are fitting together well, let's listen to the transition from the verse into the chorus and see how it sounds. Okay, not bad. Now if you want to stick with a simple verse-chorus structure, you can just copy and paste those parts a couple of times and you've pretty much got your whole song right there, except for lyrics or anything else you might want to add. My personal favorite songwriting principle is repetition with variation. This is basically the idea that a song should be repetitive enough to be catchy and memorable, but also varied enough that it doesn't get boring. Repetition is pretty self-explanatory, you just repeat the same parts. But what about variation? There are all sorts of different things you can do to create variation in a song. Maybe take out one of the instruments in the first verse so it doesn't come in until the second, or try changing the melody or even the chords in the second or third verse. I mentioned earlier that the sections of a song should generally stay within the same key, but another fun way to create variation and a lift in energy is to change up to a slightly higher key, maybe near the end of the song, like in the last chorus. Changing keys within a single song is called modulation. Once you have your song all structured out and recorded, there's still just a couple more things to do. If you want your song to have lyrics, you can do that at any point during the songwriting process. But if you haven't done so yet at this stage, and you want to, you should do that before moving on. Beyond that, if there are any edits you want to make, like adding or taking out any instruments, making sure everything's lined up rhythmically, anything like that, that's pretty much the last step before mixing. We're not really going to get into mixing here because it's a whole world of its own, but basically it involves setting the volume levels and other settings of each track, including adding effects if you want, to make your song sound exactly the way you want it to. And that's pretty much it. So go make music, have fun, and thanks so much for watching.